So, second video already. I just want to get something out, something more to think about. See, right down to the basics though. Look at from the last video to this video. Okay. I cleaned up some of the stuff over here. I shaved what was a really burly looking beard, put on a better shirt where the collar wasn't caved in and it's got my logo on it, right? Appearance. It's big. Doesn't mean suit and tie unless the suit and tie feels like a suit of armor and you can do more and be more and feel stronger, because that's really what you wear is. Meet the social criteria of fashion, but then if it takes you further, makes you feel better, more whole, like more confident, then wear the things that give you confidence that also meet fashion requirements. Okay. I'm not a suit and tie guy unless it's a suit and tie situation. So the other thing, more importantly, maybe, no, we'll say equally as important, but the reason why I shot that video immediately is because the iron was hot. I had it in my head. I needed to get it out. And so I went with it, right? Authenticity, being genuine. Those things trump everything else. Okay, so I guess it wasn't even. Authenticity and being genuine trumps everything else. As a matter of fact, sometimes I would go to meetings or be in a social situation I did not expect to be in, or something came up where I was changing a sump pump and I needed to go see a client in a crisis. Well, I remind myself as I'm walking in sometimes, kind of a pep talk, but kind of my truth. I'm walking in looking not ready for a meeting. And I remind myself, then I guess you're going to have to do better than your baseline. Then I guess you're going to have to step it up. Then step it up. And that's, that's the way I approach things like that. Because when the iron's hot, you have to strike. That's the first and foremost important lesson to learn, I think, when it comes to communicating, talking, meeting, anything. Something comes up. Hey, come grab lunch with us. My whole team is here. Yep, on the way. Okay, I might throw on some deodorant, some cologne, and keep my arms down to hide the pit marks, but I'm going. Because you don't get these opportunities. You get invited in, you go. But be prepared. Do what you can. I always have extra clothes in my car, especially in the summer. I always have an extra t-shirt, an extra polo, sometimes extra shoes, and I have deodorant, cologne in my car. Period. And hair gel and toothbrush. And so, I carry a backpack in my car. So if I have to shift, I shift and I go. That's really important. But understand that this video is going to be about not just presentation, but the communication, the conversation. How do we interact with our clients? How do we make clients friends? So I've said this before. It's definitely a Jim-ism. If I am the best title company in the world, if they do a poll and they say Quality Title is the best company in the world, and I'm an ass and you don't like me, you'll never use me. It won't happen. But if I am a genuine, authentic person interacting with people, clearly I like people. I like hanging out with them. I like to get to know them. That is, for me, that's a huge advantage in this game, because I genuinely like people, all walks. I like all walks, period. So that, what the hell was I just saying? Good Lord. Take a pause. Got it. So, but if I'm good at what I do and you like me, you're going to use my company. If I'm the best at what I do and you don't like me, you'll never use my company. this truly, and I would love to have a conversation on this. It would be wonderful to have a dialogue with someone who wants to say this is not the case. But likability in this game and in a lot of sales is still the number one factor of getting business and title. They have to like you. And, you know, you can't be a narcissist. They'll see right through it eventually. You can't be an egotist. They only want to hear so much about you. People like to talk about themselves. So you let them and you engage them and you find some commonality. Or maybe it's something, that they love to talk about that you've never done and you would actually like to know more about it. Like it's engagement. It's human engagement though. Business comes second. The bond comes first. That's because I am not a sprinter. I don't skin sheep, I shear them. So when I create a relationship, I'm thinking forever. I want to be the last title company that any of my clients use. And if they don't, I need to know why. I need to know what I did wrong, and I need to know that I did everything that I could before I lost that client. And it's happened. And it sucks. And it's hard. And you've got to humble yourself at some point. Same thing with losing employees. Same thing with, you have to be able to look in the mirror. Being good at sales has a lot to do with self-awareness. And I'm very self-aware that I am an imperfect person, but I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, and I acknowledge both and then double down on the strengths. So that's it. Now, why is social media so important? Basic example, I can be on Facebook and I can tell you the relationship status of a person based on their posts. Happens all the time. Men and women do it. They get very philosophical and they're basically repeating this mantra of, in some format or another, I'm hurting, but I'm going to overcome this. And sometimes people, and you'll see it, they're very vague in what they're saying. So they get a lot of comments and a lot of interaction and a lot of people, oh, what's wrong? Oh, because they want that kind of attention too. Right or wrong, it's the human condition. It's how we are. And that's fine. But you can learn, the point being, you can learn a lot from social media by just observing, by just watching. You learn, it's like social media is what people want you to see about them. This is what they want to talk about themselves. Not the dark stuff, perhaps, maybe not the light stuff, perhaps, but the stuff that they want to talk about, it's on social media. And that's what we do, right? It's a social resume. And you use that because you don't want to walk into a meeting with somebody when you really had access to understanding them better before you sit down and learn them cold. Because you're looking for the connection. You're looking for a way yourself to connect, to have a genuine connection with that person. And that's another thing that I think is huge in sales, is empathy. I genuinely can put myself in other people's shoes, even if they're not being nice to me, and see where they're coming from, until that escalates to a level that doesn't happen in title. It's never going to burn you to try to understand where somebody's coming from. Empathy is a huge one. So back to social media, it tells you where events are. It tells you what's going on. It tells you who's most involved. It tells you who works for what company. It tells you, what people are new, what people aren't. Like, it tells you everything you need to know about them and somewhat of what drives them, or at least somewhat of what they present to the world. And that's a great intro. You don't ever have to literally walk cold into any meeting that you can't find something on social media to learn more about that person. It's just like text to phone call. Don't call me if this is about business and you can text me a sentence or two. If you're going to call me and say, hey, I've got a problem, can you call me? No. You say, hey, I've got a problem, it's about this. so that by the time I call you, I'm on your same page. We don't have to mull through it and we can go right into the solution. So, but sometimes it requires a phone call. Sometimes a phone call is a flow chart, an if then statement. If we go here, then we go here. If here, then here, or we go like, and then there's more questions that I need to ask to understand something better. So do that with your clients too. Don't bug them. Know their communication style. I know for a fact that some people in my company, if I want an instant response, I email. Others, I text. And I know that because that's their style. And it's not right or wrong. I'm just learning them so I can communicate with them. Now, if I'm calling or if I'm emailing or texting, then it's not as important, because if it was critical, I would be calling them. So keep that in mind too. The client drives it. You don't. It's not your style of communication that you're learning. It's theirs. And you're adapting to that. Because if I've got 1,000 plates spinning at all times, and I don't want to be called, then why would you call me? Unless it's something interesting, unless it's something exciting, unless it's something that benefits everybody. But if it's just about, hey, can you get me the payoff authorization? No, heck no. And that's important too. So what? We talked about how social media is such an important mode. Okay. Origin story, who you are, driving business, getting business itself. Most meetings are 95% or more social. Less than 5% is actually about business unless the client brings it up. You're creating the bond first. You're creating a friendship. You're finding common ground or common interest or common energy. That's first. Business comes second. It might be 3 meetings before you ask. Well, sometimes you don't do that. I mean, my styles have changed over the years. I am definitely more assertive, but it took me a long time to become more assertive. But then again, some people may be too assertive and have to learn for a long time how not to be so. I just learned how I am wired so that I know how to best communicate with clients. So in the origin story, you talk about things that are significant to all of us, interesting to all of us, or perhaps obscure, and only you have gone through that. But there is no poor me version of the origin story, and there is no poor me at all. You don't seek sympathy. You don't seek pity when you're talking to clients. No one wants that. Don't do that. That is a cardinal sin of sales. You have to not necessarily not be yourself, but you don't need to share the dirt. You don't need to share the darkness. We've all got, well, as somebody who works for us said, everybody's got a story. So don't tell them yours unless that's the conversation that they bring into it. Now, as a conversation, as a relationship becomes a friendship, different ballgame. But I would advise, even in friendship with your clients or anybody else, don't dump. Trauma bonding is not really the coolest way to communicate with other people. So unless it's just, intuitively there, leave it alone. Stay on point. Keep the eye on the prize. And the prize is a long-term friendship with business benefits. Friendship benefits. Anyway, and be honest, right? If you're not an expert, you're not an expert. Humility trumps everything else. Authenticity trumps everything else. Like, use the things that are true. I'm my son, for example. I'm 3rd generation title. My grandmother, my dad, people like that. They see that this is important to you. This matters. This is legacy stuff. And people like that. They like to feel that connection. It is about tribe. It is about bond. So that's part of that story. But you're trying to find the things that really are interesting to all until you get to know that person. And then from there, you let it go. Then you start to actually have that genuine conversation. So if you don't know, you don't know. And that's why, like, if you're new, you ask questions. Like, my gosh, if you're sitting down with somebody who's in the business, they've made it their career too. So ask them questions. Ask them because you want to learn from them. And everybody likes to be a mentor. Everybody loves to teach. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. So you ask questions. And then you have follow-up questions, or maybe you have a comment to make after that, but ask questions. Show interest. Like, be, what's the word? Oh my God. Inquisitive. Be inquisitive. It's huge. Put some energy into it. You have a fuel tank every day, your energy, put it out there. Lucky for extroverts that are in sales, the exchange brings energy. Now, as long as you're not a succubus, as long as you're not like pulling, pity and sympathy and that kind of crap out of somebody, poor me stuff. But, a great conversation for an extrovert it's like a drug. I mean, it just, it just fills you up. So be authentic, have an origin story that is interesting, pick the things that are relevant. And sometimes that story shifts and changes to the person that you're talking to. And then be honest, like, be upfront. I'm new at this, but damn, I'm hungry. I got fire in my belly and I want to be successful. I want to make my dad proud. Or that should not be your sole purpose for doing this. It should be a byproduct for doing this. But that's critical. Because you're going to run out of BS. And people that do this business, people that know this business, they know. I mean, they can see right through it. I mean, I can have a conversation with anybody and I know where they're at in their career in under 5 minutes. And that's okay. The trouble is getting around to when people have been doing it for 5 minutes and act like they've been doing it for 20 years, and you're just dying to help them or share things with them, but you have to be careful that their egos aren't bruised or they're not offended. Or that's why you don't really give opinion unless opinion is asked, right? I mean, that's like the key in parenting. The more you push, the more they push back. But if you create an environment where they start asking you, then you answer. So other than that, the interpersonal communication is the greatest part of this whole thing. Having the right energy, having a good approach, make your appearance follow that. Other than that, I think that's the essence of it. Following up, additional communications, finding that fine line between being too absent and too. You ever have a waiter or waitress and they don't come around at all, but having you have the waiter or waitress that is literally asking you every 30 seconds if you need something? Both are annoying, right? So you have to find that comfortable middle ground of communication and follow-up communication with your clients. All right, I think that's good. That's what I got on this one. So the whole point of this video was social media, how to have conversations with clients, appearance, attitude, and striking when the iron's hot. Don't over plan so much, including social media content and even like wanting to reach out to somebody. If you feel it, just do it. Like, don't get caught in your head. Don't just like try to perfect something before you execute it. If your gut's telling you to do a thing, do it. A lot of this is just going to be learning on the fly anyway. After you have conversations, you should definitely kind of go back over them in your head. I mean, that's kind of my follow-ups. I mean, your follow-ups to anybody saying, hey, man, I really love talking about the Cubs. That was awesome. Or I can't believe we were there at that same time at that event. That was, I mean, you really do kind of bring up things that are relevant or the highlights of the conversation itself and send it. But here's the trick. This is the most important thing, though. You'll know you're good if your clients could watch this video and then after that first touch and then after the additionals, it doesn't even register in their minds that that's exactly what you did, because that's authentic. because that's the genuine. Because your energy and the way you exchange energy with somebody else is literally the most memorable impression you leave on a person. It's how you look at them. It's how you convey who you are. It's how you give of yourself to interact. Energy is everything. That's the title of this. Energy is everything.